Just have another thought to share with you, and hope it helps you and encourages you today. One of the things I wanted to bring up is dealing with troubles, trials, difficulties that come across our path. And I noticed that in my own life, I can only speak for myself, but I know that means other people are going through the same thing. I noticed that it's not like I don't want to go to God when I'm struggling, but I feel like many times when something comes across my path, a situation or a circumstance comes up, I feel like I do a knee-jerk reaction, and the first thing I do is start scrambling like a chicken with its head cut off, running around trying to figure out how I can resolve whatever the issue is right off the bat myself. And when I've exhausted all thoughts of how I'm going to resolve this problem, then I go to God and cry and, say, I can't figure it out. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And deep down inside, I know that I need to learn to be calm and go to Him first. But why is it that we always seem to scramble instead of go to Him? And I think that's just part of our walk with the Lord is when we're, if you can look at a pendulum kind of thing, where on one end you're a brand new Christian and you're closer to the world because you're fresh into Christianity. So when turmoil comes, you lean on what's most comfortable to you and you run back to the old ways of handling stress and stuff. But as you progress in your walk with the Lord, you're getting closer to the mind of Christ and the things that God wants us to do right and the choices we're supposed to make that are better for us. And so when we get that halfway point, we could go either way. We could run all the way back to the way we used to handle stuff, or we can say, no, I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to trust God and I'm going to look to Him. So for a long time, I seem to run back to the other direction. It's like, especially when financial troubles came or physical problems came, I found myself just resorting into just panic, just sheer panic, and fretting about the situation, worrying about it, upset about it, because the reality of what I was going through was so raw and so fresh at that very moment. When you're out of work, or when you're broke, or when you're going through financial hardships, it's not something far away or unfelt. It's raw. It's right there. You're dealing with it. You're experiencing the verge of eviction or being homeless or losing the job and having to find another one. Those things are very raw and they're very real, and they come with emotion. And I'm learning, just this week I've been going through, I kind of had a variety of things that I was going through this week. One thing is I injured my shoulder, and my arm is my livelihood, so I have to have use of my arm in order to work. And my job told me that I cannot work with my arm being injured. So I felt a sense of panic a little bit, because this is not a little light injury that's going to heal up right away, and not knowing how long I'm going to be out of work and trying to race around and get MRIs and x-rays and to deal with this kind of on a quick way, because I want to get back to work. I started finding myself becoming angry, frustrated, irritable. I'm running around trying to get all this stuff taken care of, and I just became exhausted. I was just tired, and finally I just cried out to God. I said, I'm hurting right now, and I can't focus on having to go through all the details of what I need to do to get my arm taken care of. If I lose my job, then there goes the insurance to take care of it. So all these things kind of panic in with it. And then financial troubles came mixed in with it, just because there were some issues that I had. I do dog rescue, and I had a couple dogs that were sick, and one in particular right now that's going through congestive heart failure. And so coupled with that, I think I just got hit this week. And in all of it, when all's said and done, the bottom line, it doesn't matter what I'm going through. it matters how I handle it. And I didn't handle it good. You know, I did the chicken with the head cut off routine. I went through sheer panic. I think all day Sunday I just slept in bed, didn't want to get up. I was so frustrated. But you know, now I'm getting to the place I'm like, Lord, I just want to run to you quicker. The scripture says to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on our own understanding. Acknowledge him in all our ways, and he will direct our paths. Okay, it didn't say he might. He may if you're nice enough, or if you're one of his favorites, he might. No, it doesn't say that. We know what it says. It says that he will. It says that he will. And he wants us to trust him with all our heart. But we don't. We don't trust him with all of our heart. It's easy to trust him, you know, when all's going well. There's a song by the McCameys, God on the Mountain. I love that song. And they're talking about how life is good when you're up on the mountain. It's all good. It's easy to praise God and thank him. But when you're down in the valley, you know, it gets rough and you start to doubt and waver. And that's how life is in our walk with God. We're being transformed into the image of Christ, which means it's a transformation process. It's a sanctification process. God, when we got saved, he sanctified us, which means set apart. He's pulling us out of the world, and he's sanctifying us. He's filling us with, or getting us a new mind. He's filling us with his knowledge and understanding, and we're growing step by step each day, learning more, putting ourselves before him, and teaching, and whatever you got to do, you know, to grow in him. It's opening our minds up to his way, and then we begin to see things in a different way. We look at the way we used to do things, and now we're like, wow, Lord, you know, I used to do this when this happened, and now you've taught me to do this. And it brings joy in our life when we see change in our own life, in our own hearts. So all these trials, you know, we always hear about it. All these trials and temptations is to help us grow. But when you're actually in the trial or temptation, the purpose for it goes out the door. All you can think about is the present moment, and calming ourselves. A friend of mine wrote me today and said, be still, and something like, be quiet and be still, or something like that. And I laughed. I'm like, really, me? Be quiet, be still? That's like, you know, laughter. But I know what she was saying. And it's tough for us to just say, God, you know, take this from me and help me to just trust you in this circumstance. I had a job last year that was really I loved the job, and it was a lot of trials and a very corrupt environment, but a lot of persecution and things like that. But I remembered I just had a peace about it. God just helped me through that, and when I kept coming up against circumstances that were against me, I just had this peace. I knew I was in God's will. I knew he wanted me there. And for some reason, it helped me trust him more. But for some reason this week with the shoulder, you know, it just blindsided me. It just came at me like a freight train coming up behind you, and you don't see it coming, you know. And so it just caught me off guard, and I think I went right into panic mode. Just that darn knee jerk that gets us killed every time. So God's trying to teach us, slow down on the knee jerks, because knee jerk reactions are going to get us in trouble. When you're angry and you knee jerk, you're going to get yourself in trouble. You know, if you're in financial debt and you start scrambling to get out of it in ways that God never asked you to, you're going to get in trouble. And it's the same way as he wants us to trust him with our whole heart, and have confidence that he's going to see us through. And that's what helps grow our faith, when we absolutely see no option, no door, nothing with our eyes that could remotely look like we're going to get help. And that's when he shines the best. So I encourage you today, if you're going through some struggles and you're one of those that's like me that just does knee-jerk, stupid things when you get scared, frightened, panicked, whatever the case may be. Let me just give you a little example of one that it's real small, but it was a blessing to me. I'm an animal lover and I love animals, and I do dog rescue and have many dogs, 6 right now. I'm down from 10. But way back when I first started with my first 2 dogs, I lived in this apartment complex, and one of the managers let me have the 2 dogs, and the other manager found out I had the 2 dogs, and somehow there was a communication confusion between the 2 of them, and all of a sudden I come home from work one day, and I wasn't making a lot of money back then, and I found a note on my door that said I had 24 hours to move out. I just started bawling. I was hysterical because, I mean, first of all, who can move out in 24 hours? I mean, it was 6 o'clock at night when I saw the note, and I had to work the next day, so how am I going to get a new place to live, move out? It was impossible. I was in shock. I couldn't even believe it. I went in, I cried. So my first knee-jerk response was, I'm going to quick get online and get rid of the dogs, you know. And I'm crying as I'm writing the ad because I love those dogs with all my heart. And I'm putting an ad up to get rid of them. And I'm like mad and I'm hurt and I'm angry. And I don't want to get rid of the dogs, but I got this stupid eviction notice. And so deep down inside, while I'm writing a note and I'm crying, I just stopped myself and I said, Lord, I love these dogs. I don't want to have to get rid of them, you know. And it was kind of like God was speaking to my heart. Did I ask you to do that? Did I tell you to get online and get rid of your dogs? And no, of course he didn't. But that was my knee-jerk response to what I needed to do. That was what was getting me evicted, were the 2 dogs. And so I was crying, and I went to go get something out of my car, and I must have looked a little bit of a mess, but my next door neighbor sees me and said, oh my gosh, what's wrong? You don't look good. And I told him, I said, well, I got an eviction notice. And he said, oh, and those 2 little dogs? Why would they do that? And I said, I don't know, but they told me I have to get rid of them, but the one manager said I could have them. And he said, let me talk to them and all that. So he went and the next day and talked to them, and he had a little bit of clout because he had been there when he was one of the longest tenants. And so the next day I got a note when I woke up to go to work, and it said, come talk to us on your next day off. So I was like, wow, what a sense of relief. So I did, and the lady basically said the other manager had no right saying you could have the dogs, you have to leave a deposit and stuff like that. So long story short, I had to come up with a deposit, which I really didn't have, but I did. I made it happen. And I was able to keep my dog, stay in my place, and I didn't have to move out. But that was something that God worked it out. He used my neighbor, and he touched his heart to speak on my behalf, and I was so hurt and I was upset, but God worked it all out. So if you're going through something similar where, you know, the circumstances look grim, maybe you're out of work, you're out of a job, you're getting ready to be evicted or whatever, cry out to God. I'm telling you, cry out to him, because he stands there like a father waiting for us to ask him for help. You know, trust in him, and stop with the knee jerk, or decrease it a little bit, because it kills us. It does, it just kills us. And be encouraged, because he really does have a plan. He likes to come in and see things work out for us, and it helps build our trust in him and encourage us to look to him the next time something happens. And remember in the Old Testament how when the Israelites would go through things and God would say, pick up a stone in the river, and they used to take a little stone, like say there was a big battle. They pick up that little stone and they put it in a little satchel. And so at the end they'd have all these stones. And anytime they went through troubles, they'd take that little satchel and they'd throw those little stones out, and they'd see the little stones. They'd go, oh yeah, I remember when, gosh, I remember that stone. That came from that battle blah, 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 whatever. And man, God saw us through. And oh, yeah, that stone? Oh, wow. I remember when our adversaries were coming after us hard on that one, and God saw us through. And there are these little stones are like little reminders of what God can do in our life and what he has done in our life. So I encourage you to maybe journal or something and start writing down the things where you're having a deep trouble and then how you got out of it, and watch God work. And you'll be amazed as you look back at this journal and go, man, I remember that last year when I went through that. And it builds your faith for the next time. So when you're struggling and you're battling with something, you can go out and get a satchel yourself and start that tradition. It's awesome, actually. And when you do go through something, find something that represents whatever that battle is. You know, if you're dealing with finances or something, find a little piece of money or something and put it in the satchel. And each of these little pieces are going to remind you of God's greatness and his saving grace and his help in our life, and it'll build our faith. So just be encouraged today. You're not alone. I'm going to tell you that till I breathe my last breath. You are not alone. We're walking this walk together. It gets hard. It gets real hard sometimes, but we're gonna come out victorious because God's determined to win our hearts, and he's determined to see us through. And he gets the final say in this because he's the author and finisher of our faith. Not us, he is. So let him author your faith and let him finish your faith. And you're going to finish strong. May not look like it right now, but you will finish strong, trust me. So hang in there. Have a great week. Bye-bye.